Apple released the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus a couple of weeks ago, and I've been using the 7 Plus ever since. But I didn't want to release my video right away. I wanted to wait till the dust settles, and I wanted to wait till the hype died down. Hi, my name's Andrew from AMDtech, and this is our review of the iPhone 7 Plus from Apple. Let's find out if it lives up to its high price tag. Let's find out if it's a buy or a don't buy. Sometimes it's better to wait till all the hoopla and hype dies down after a new device is released. That's exactly what I did with the iPhone 7 Plus. Let's find out if it's a buy or a don't buy. What you get under the hood is Apple's own A10 Fusion quad-core CPU. It has 3 GB of RAM and starts at 32 GB of onboard storage. No more of that paltry 16 GB as an entry-level device. It weighs 6.63 ounces, is only 0.29 inches thick. It's very thin, very light, and extremely elegant looking, especially in the matte black, which is what you see here. Apple has stepped up its game in terms of the water resistance. It has now an IP67 rating. For all those runners out there that run in the rain, you don't have to worry about covering the device. Nice job, Apple. As far as Apple packaging is concerned, you get your typical elegant looking packaging as Apple normally does out of Cupertino. Inside the box, you get your documentation, SIM ejection tool, your lightning cable and adapter, and of course your earpods. But unlike the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, this does not have a 3.5mm headphone jack. A controversial move indeed, but Apple does include a $10 Lightning port to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter in the box. If you lose it, it is only $10 and you can get it at apple.com or at any Apple store. But to be honest, I really didn't miss the 3.5mm headphone jack as I normally use Bluetooth headphones. Speaking of Bluetooth headphones, Apple will be releasing the AirPods coming very soon. I'll talk more about that later, but suffice it to say, I'm not a fan of the design. And speaking of sound, you now have stereo sound. Yes, there are 2 speakers, one on the bottom as you see here, and you have a speaker by the earpiece as you see here. We'll talk more about the sound and audio quality later in the video. As much as some things have changed, some have stayed the same, such as the power button's placement as you see here. And you have your Nano-SIM tray over here. And you have your volume rocker up and down and the physical mute button, something you don't have on Android phones. It's nice to have that switch when you want to put it in vibration mode. And another big change is the home button. It is no longer a physical home button, but rather is using Apple's Taptic engine. It gives you a haptic feedback rather than actual physical press, something it took about a day or so for me to get used to. Touch ID was spot on. In fact, I think it was improved of the last iterations of the 6S and 6S Plus. And the iPhone itself felt good in the hand, although it is a little bit wide and is certainly wider than the Galaxy Note 7, something that I didn't really appreciate. Now speaking of the display, it has a 5.5-inch IPS LCD display, a somewhat disappointing 1080 by 1920 that's a full HD display. I would have thought that Apple would have gone to an OLED display just like Samsung did in its Galaxy Note line. But as a full HD display, it is very good and it does get very bright and does have very good color accuracy and representation. But I just wish it was a higher resolution display. But one area where the iPhone 7 Plus really shines is in the cameras. On the front, you get a 7 megapixel shooter with an f-stop of 2.2. That's a 32mm equivalent. And on the back, you get 2 12 megapixel shooters. The first one has an f-stop of 1.8. That's the equivalent of a 28mm lens. And the other one is also 12 megapixels and has an f-stop of 2.8. That's the equivalent of a 56mm lens. Picture quality was excellent, and I have to say Apple really hit a home run on these cameras. As you see here, this one is the panoramic view. Now, Apple will be releasing an update later this year that will enable that bokeh effect. That's where the shallow depth of field comes into play. I'm curious to see how Apple software will make that happen. I will test it out when it is available. There are plenty of videos out there that can go over all the software features of iOS 10, so I'm not going to go into it here. Suffice it to say, iOS 10 has made a lot of improvements, but one area I wish it was improved in terms of the iPhone 7 Plus is the fact that you cannot use split screen as you would, say, an iPad or iPad Pro. As we stated earlier, the iPhone 7 Plus now has stereo sound. That means there's a speaker on the bottom and one by the earpiece. Let's take a look and a listen at a latest video to see how the sound is on the iPhone 7 Plus. Let's take a look and a listen.
Anyone who watches my channel knows I'm a big fan of the Dell XPS 13, and rightfully so, as it garners rave reviews time and time again. Check out my video when I reviewed it and you'll know exactly why. Well, in-house today we have its business class cousin. It's the Dell Latitude 13 7370. And for all intents and purposes, it's basically a Dell XPS 13 geared towards the business customer. But there are some key differences. Hi, my name's Andrew, and this is our review of the Dell Latitude 13 7370. Let's find out if it's a buy or a don't buy.
As you can hear, this is a much improved device as far as the iPhone 6, 6S, and 6S Plus from last year. This sounds a little bit better. In fact, I like the fact that they now have stereo sound. Although it's not the best device out there, this is a step in the right direction. And in another area where the iPhone 7 Plus really shines in is in its performance. Apple has stepped up its chip game, and its A10 Fusion processor is a real beast. Aided by 3 GB of RAM, performance has been really stepped up over its predecessors. And it did really well on the Geekbench test. It did a 5560 on the Geekbench score, not bad indeed. And on the Google Octane 2.0 test, it did better than all its competition, including the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy Note 7, as you see here. It did a 26,413, really good score indeed. And as far as battery life is concerned, it outshone all of its competition, including the Galaxy Note 7, which has been recently re-released to the public with its new battery and all. But one big miss is the fact that it doesn't have wireless charging. We're approaching late 2016, we're heading into 2017, every flagship phone should have wireless charging. I don't care what anybody says, wireless charging is a must. So overall, is the iPhone 7 Plus a buy or a don't buy? Is it worthy of its $850 price tag? I'm going to have to say it depends. And what I mean is, if you are already invested in the Apple ecosystem and you have an iPhone 6 or earlier, I say you have to make this a buy. The hardware upgrades are probably worth it. But if you have a 6S or a 6S Plus, upgrading may not be so clear cut. Because Apple didn't go with the OLED display and stuck with a full HD display, which is a LCD display, which is good in its own right, I was a little bit disappointed, and I thought for sure that this was going to be the iteration that we would see the OLED display with a higher resolution, maybe even a 4K resolution. But again, Apple probably wanted to save on battery life. But overall, this is a very good phone with a few flaws and a few major improvements in its own right. I have to say, if you're an Apple person, this is a definite buy. If you're an Android person and want that high-end flagship, look at the Galaxy Note 7. They may be even more attractive at this point, even with its battery issues and all. So what do you think about the iPhone 7 Plus from Apple? Do you think it lives up to the hype and all the hoopla surrounding it? Do you think it's worth the high price tag? I think it is. I think if you're an Apple fan, like I said, if you are invested heavily into the Apple ecosystem, this is a no-brainer. If you have one of the newer phones, the 6S or the 6S Plus, you may have pause because they didn't make those big upgrades that I was looking for. And a lot of people were looking for, such as a high-res screen and an OLED screen for that matter. And some people were taken aback by the lack of a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. But overall, I think it's a really nice upgrade. It's not a major upgrade. It's more of an incremental upgrade. It's more or less the same body as the iPhone 6 line. But please let me know, leave a comment in the comment section below. I'm really curious to see what you think about the iPhone 7 Plus. If you've already picked one up, let me know how it's working out for you. Are you interested in it, or are you looking more towards the Android side, such as the Galaxy Note 7? I've recently gotten my replacement unit, and I'm really liking it very much. Although the battery is an interesting issue, I will be doing a video later on that this week. Coming soon to AMDtech is a very special review of the Xiaomi Mi Notebook Air 13.3 inch. It's the one with the Core i5 processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and the 256 gigs of SSD storage. It's the bigger brother, so to speak, of the 12.5 inch version that we reviewed about a month ago, and we gave it rave reviews. I can't wait to get my hands on the 13.3 inch. One big differentiating factor is the fact that it has a dedicated NVIDIA GPU. I'm looking forward to testing that out. Also coming very soon is the 4th installment of our new series, Is It Still Worth It?, where we take a look back at devices and gadgets released over the past year or so, see how well they've held up over time, and more importantly, have there been a big dramatic price decrease? Well, next up in our series is the Lenovo Mix 700. That's the 2-in-1 Surface Pro 4 competitor that was released about 6 or 7 months ago that we reviewed on our channel. Take a look at those videos as a warm-up to our Is It Still Worth It series, coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. So I want you to please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. I want you to let me know how I'm doing, and I want you to let me know if there's a device out there you think I should review. Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if you think I should review it. I will do my best to try to make that happen. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMDtech. See ya.